once you are able to be yourself, the inner child of you running wild and free, this is that moment of truth where you know, like Sadhguru shared, that a love affair need not be with any particular person, but that you could have a great love affair with life itself. That's also because you are actively working with a lovely whole heart and body and mind. So, with that, you put Dharma into practice. Consciousness, your unconscious, subconscious, they're yours. Your inner child is an adult. So, that's why we say inner child adult here at IHP, mystic or not. And that's that feminine with your divine feminine, the divine masculine, and then we have the masculine feminine. That's how I call the brain, because we talk about the brain, but right now let's just remember that the feminine, that oneness, love, essence of love, life, God, Akash, source, universe, all of it. Consciousness, okay? So consciousness is a constant when you have your whole solo self and you live that true spirituality life, meaning and connection beyond. You own the solo self, your sense of self. So you don't need the therapist. You have forgiven all the family if you had childhood trauma. Okay, so that's when you're ready to put into practice mindfulness in a way that you will successfully, consistently move more and more into the restorative embodiment of you. So a restorative embodied, self-aware, accountable, and regulating person uses integration of the brain because they have bilateral integration. Before they can get here, they do EMDR, child parts work, and somatics, and then once they're here, they have two options. They get to do Dharma, or they get to say, I want to do personal development, self-help. It's crap. I want life now. And we have a Zen master with laundry for those people. So in the meantime, for us, we get to run wild with our inner child and do Dharma. Dharma is not a teaching, philosophy, or belief system. It is based on clarity of vision about life here and hereafter. And as a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, yes, here and after. This is going to be a beautiful future. Okay, so here's where the beginner's mind. It's because you're using a prefrontal cortex, so you actively do not have anything against being an ordinary person. So mystic or not, we're all our authentic, ordinary self. We know about darkness and that invisible balance. It's not about good or evil. This is where no inherently good or evil, no wrong or right path. It's about flaws with integrity. So authentic self, functional adults, okay? Kindness within your brain, no critic inside or out. With others, you do the best you can depending on the situation. So whenever you're dealing with 3D, 4D, narrow states of consciousness, adaptive child, maladaptive child pattern of behavior, they will make it. Where's my book? All about the self with that unbridled self-expression. You will learn slowly how to have Krishna Lila come on in because your prefrontal cortex is engaged. It means you're curious, open, accepting, and loving because you're confident to be yourself, and you're also not a person who is trying to tell another human being how to live their life. So, you know, biological rudeness is not a conscious choice. I'm in the presence of a 0-1-year-old that is broken, so they have a shame cycle. There are teenagers leading the room. I have Cusco. You treat it like Pacha. You don't lecture Cusco. Okay, so inside you're curious, though, because you are also aware that we're brothers and sisters. That's where the mystic comes in. And that's what I got to learn from my lovely Catechism of Jesus. So the guidance of IHP is for those who are not lost with their compass. They are with integrity. And it is because you understand getting to put into practice the inner growth mindset and mindfulness and mindset practices so that you stub your toe, and every time you'll stub it the same, but you will create resiliency. So it's like working out, okay? That's the thing. It's resiliency when you're dealing with uncertainties, unexpected, and unwanted. So you put into practice, I know my sense of self, my self-worth, healthy, and how to be a functional adult in my relationships, and that there's a limitless possibility, and that I get to explore with others what fruitfulness will come out of the enlightening moments that I will have with other because of us being whole. I'm whole, they're whole. And so that is where it's really fun to be with our loved ones and to consistently come together. I'm looking for some cards, 1 second, and completely continue a transpersonal, interpersonal, and relationship of healthy self-worth people, which bring to you what is that love affair with life. And so when we're together, we do know that there can be this people who have trauma. So trauma sits in your automatic reactions and your dispositions and how you interpret the world. So in order to really rewire those automatic perceptions, you need to have deep experiences that for your survival brain, that's the safety behavior brain, contradicts how you are now disposed to think. And so remember though, there are those who will trust someone less when they're kind to them. You choose yourself. And that's what's important here. So we heal trauma one person at a time, one relationship at a time by bringing safe haven, secure base, healthy self-worth, functional adult love language. And that's also because of the Dharma part that we talked about. Only ones who do karma are the same ones who, when we criticize people or lecture them, we actually invite them not to pay attention to what we are saying. Harriet Lerner. So adaptive children do this stuff. Again, it's unbridled self-expression, or they think they're right. It'll depend how they come across, but you'll notice it. And they will have the whole believers. So believers believe positively, disbelievers believe negatively. Both are unwilling to admit that they don't know. The functional adults, we are willing to know. We know some things, not all things. And then we talk. We also know, where are you? There's another very important quote from our lovely Sadhguru that I want to share. That it's the tick tock, tick tock. So every day, every time you check the time, remember life is ticking away. Time to focus on what is truly worthwhile. You are worthwhile, and being true to you is what is worthwhile. That's why, again, once you're ready to be mindfully aware with mindsight and mindset, it's because you do have the connection to the eternity within, and you are held always by love because you have that securely attached child. So you have reparented and are ready to not be alone, and that's because you want to grow healthy self-worth with others. And so the rhythm, you flow with expanding peace of consciousness. Come and join us at IHP. You flow with the unconditional love that Jesus taught us, so you know how to turn the other cheek. And when you are dealing with people who are adaptive children, I deal with them pretty often, you know how to basically handle yourself like anyone else. It's called decent human being, not perfection. It's just called decent. Sometimes they actively think they're teaching you a lesson. And when they do that, we don't actively think anything of it because Cusco is the one who's blinded, not Pacha. Okay, so functional adults, they don't have a self-doubt button, like they don't have a shame button. They have a self-love button, and they know they're enough, and they also know that forgiveness is all about the past never returns. We're not going to hold back from creating deep connections and build relationships with people we love because of mistakes. We all make them. We're all imperfect. We're all flawed. The only people who cancel and block each other and actively go rigid and chaotic this way are, again, adaptive child people. They're grown-ups who have non-bilateral integration. That means that they will want to prove they're right. They will want to control all of the situation. They will make it into unbridled self-expression, thinking they can lecture somebody else. They will retaliate when you say, I don't agree, which is why you usually don't. And then they withdraw. And if they retaliate because you don't say anything at all, well, I've learned how to handle that one too. We can agree to disagree, right? Because apparently that's what's happening. So I'm not really clear on why you're getting upset. There's nothing to get upset about. That's why healthy self-worth is a tone that says, okay, I see you. I'm not soothing anything because I'm not destabilized. I'm giving you a clear answer. The tone is what a person who's a emotional, mental, and physical grown-up, they will notice it. We also don't really tend to pay attention to what others are doing. We tend to pay attention to our own body and hearts and minds and mouths because people will point out our tones. And so we like to make sure that we are able to have that harmony, the tango dance of the 5D collective. So we'll be back with more. I'm going to make it a short one as the sun is also going out. And I hope you're having a great day. We will be back to explore more on mindfulness, mindset. If you like, share, and subscribe, that helps the channel. And that way we can create membership content. And that way we can start having a nice group of people that want to put into practice what is. And that's, I'm still deciding on the calendar, but one-to-one mentorship is also available. Masterclass is in the works, and I am planning a spiritual retreat at some point in time. So if you're interested, again, start writing, signing up. There's limited numbers for the one-to-one and the masterclass, as well as the spiritual retreat, because it's meant to be with a group. As we build that community, it keeps moving forward together. There's donations if you want to support the channel. Obviously, that's always something welcome. Thank you so much. And there's something else I wanted to share, but you can subscribe to our audio podcast, because there are only audio podcast versions at times, although with Spotify, some will also contain video. And I actively have one out Monday, tomorrow, and it will be on Spotify with the video. I chose to not post the long version of what we discussed shortly. It was maybe yesterday or today, I forget. So you can go to Spotify and find, or Amazon Music, or iHeartRadio, or Spotify for podcasters, or there's like 11 platforms. And thank you again for stopping by. Let's share love and support to all of those who want to be there in a child adults. It's a beautiful time for us to actively bring forth what I learned from Jesus. And I can explain it now with sciences and with true spirituality. What recently came to my awareness is that 3D, 4D actively, the 4D mystics, particularly caught my eye, as they're calling holistic and mystics like me and others the New Age names, and they're using Lucifer again. So they just keep using Lucifer and demons for anything that they don't agree with. And I was like, wow, because the sciences, I get it. Woo spiritual, because I know about sciences. And now I found out that sciences people chase other sciences people down. So this aspect of ignorance, rigidity is ignorance. You wanting to live life in a way that speaks true to you. So, for example, my lovely polyamory community, come on over. Anytime I get the opportunity to talk about polyamory, I am not ashamed and I am not offended, and I don't do that. Oh my God, how dare you say this shit? I actively smile and say, no, that's not what polyamory is, but it's okay. Totally get it. You don't know what it is. And then sometimes there's people say, but they're masochists, not the healthy self-worth ones. But it's hard to be healthy self-worth. Well, that's when, right here, the person just told you, I have low self-esteem because it's hard. Basically, it's like, wow, okay, how do I address this one? I need to be polite about it, which means also not point out what you just said, because you obviously didn't hear what you just said, or look, you're happy though, right? Your life, what you're doing. So long story short, though, it's something humorous, not insulting, is what I was trying to get. Like when you watch people who actively inform you of women being used just for sex. It's not offensive. I actively think any man who is a believer of those stereotypes, I hope they get to a good therapist at some point for a long time, until they're out of their shame button and actively recognize how they're talking to people and themselves and in their brain and all of it. I don't take offense for what is a distortion. Again, as we close out, let me remind you, because the only way to bring you to reality is, Bezel, where are you? I know that people don't like what information you're sharing, but that's, again, trauma sits in your automatic reactions and your dispositions and how you interpret the world. Patrick Tiahan has shared, childhood trauma survivor, they have a distortion of their complete perception of self and others and the world. They're unkind because they were treated unkindly. Any person who's treating humanity with unkindness and is not willing to forgive the way I learned, I know that they have a trust break. They don't have to be willing to forgive. I actively know I have a rigid, adaptive child in front of me with low self-esteem, indirect communication, passive-aggressive. Their nervous system is not at ease, and they actively get rigid. The minute that you get rigid is the minute you can get soft, because you realize my 14-month-old and my all years of age old thoughts and feelings are not irrefutable facts. I don't have to be rigid as I'm presenting them. I can be soft as I present them. That's actively self-awareness with mindfulness. It's not, I will change my words because you told me I have to. That is something completely different. I will not be changing my words. I will say, okay, we use words differently. How do we want to proceed? I use words this way. We don't have to engage in communication. So you achieve a sweet spot when you're talking to people who are different. So some people, they don't want to use updated words, and I have personally also met this type of dynamic. The more soft you can be about it and talk, the better it is, because we all can agree to understand our language. Versus people, you can't use that word at all. We all do things as the different age groups get together. I know that the older ones have a hard time. I'm in the middle kind of deal. The younger ones have an easier time, and that's where we are in the midst of change. It's talking about it by being accepting, soft, and continuing to converse, that we can maybe arrive at having each other hear things, and then notice that we're always going to be, in fact, more comfortable with those who explore. The curious people, not the ones who are actively rigid. Rigid people, they just are like Cusco's. And actually, Cusco's a lot more fun than the actual rigid people you meet, because they think they're right, and then they turn into the squirrel of Cusco land. And, anyways, that's when you say, wow, so nice to see you. See you later. Peace out. And you go, okay, so we're going to go now. Thank you for stopping by. See you again soon.